Hey everybody, Bill in Virginia, back with yet another episode of my adventures in model railroading. I want to start this one off with a cautionary tale. Always remember to save your video work in maybe a different file or folder and what you were doing it in. I had a nice video prepared for this week which dealt with adding water features to the N scale layout, which is the one right in front of us here, and the HO in the back that I'm just doing a slow pan on. Unfortunately, my iPhone ran out of space, so in my zeal to clear up some space, because I was working on, in fact, a video for about 3 weeks down the road, I deleted a bunch of old files. And this week's video that I was going to post was one of those files. And in iMovie, once you delete it, and you've deleted the original, you're hosed. I can watch it in iMovie, but there's no way to export it. There's no support. There's no backup, and I've checked online. So anyway, this week I'm going to be showing the what was originally part 2 of the water feature ad, as well as what I'm adding on now. So a little bit longer, just to kind of get it up to speed. But you're going to see a mix of both water features on the N scale, and I reworked the water feature over on the HO scale. That one had some off-gassing, and literally it had a boil in the the resin water. It looked like it was about ready to burst, so I opted to do something different over there. But I'm going to give you a quick overview on a part of the N scale water features, and then I'm going to pick up on the other video, which is going to take us over to the HO scale, and show how I reworked that, but then that's going to bounce us back over to the N scale and pick up the other 2 areas where I added water features. So you're going to hear some referencing to the first video, which is obviously long gone now, but it should be okay. I think you'll be able to follow what I'm doing here. So anyway, always save your work. It's all I can say. But while I'm here, I've been adding more details along this ridge, tufts of grass, adding some along the track, also adding them along the ridge, just kind of fleshing it out a little bit, kind of making a better transition sometimes between the rock and the tree line, more natural, and then some tufts down below along the track edge going up to the bluff here. So anyway, let's go over to the N scale water feature that I'm going to show first. So for my N scale water features, I used Envirotech, good pourable resin. I made this one, which is down in the hollow on the lower end of the stream channel, made this one into a pond feature. In my world, they are spring-fed when water is not running down the primary channels of the water features. This one I mixed up a little bit of paint with water and just gave it a slight cast on the bed before I poured the epoxy. And you can kind of see that over on the right side in between the 2 canoers. The bottom's got just a slight hint of green. Make it look a little bit deeper, and just gives a little bit of a contrast to the stream bottom. So this stream only has water flowing in it during high water events. You can see just how the angle of the rock, that if you're getting rain shedding off the mountains, water is going to come barreling down the main channel as well as the side channel. It's going to hollow out a depression, which is what's here. And then, a little spring keeps it with water most of the year. So we've got some local residents out enjoying a nice fall day on, the mountains in Pennsylvania, maybe West Virginia, northwestern Virginia, no real place for this except in the Appalachians. Looking a little bit farther up, and we'll see more of this here in just a minute, more water feature up there. Again, another ponded area coming off of where the streams intersect, the main one and then the smaller one. Again, hollowed out, a little bit of a spring-fed feature there. And then the curved bridge, even though it's kind of hard to see from here, and I'll show you more in a little bit, there is a little bit of water and moisture underneath the bridge, just to kind of give it a look like it's wet. So let's go over and we'll pick up on the HO scale where I'm doing some work on that water feature. So on the HO scale layout, I'm going to redo the water feature that I had. And there's the old one. I used Woodland Scenic's pourable water, the ready mixed. And, you know, I thought I had sealed the pink foam board well when I put it in. But over the past year, it has bubbled a couple of different times, just a great big gas bubble. So I tore it out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rework this area a little bit. Not any different than really what I had it before. So I've already gone in and repainted it with acrylics to kind of seal up the foam board. I'm going to come back in after that, and I'm going to use full strength wood glue and just sort of lay it on pretty thick throughout the area, anywhere where I've got foam board. I'm going to let that dry. Then I'm going to come back in with more full strength glue and put that in, and then put in you know, a little bit of gravel, a little bit of dirt, and then I'm going to use Envirotex and pour that in as my water feature for this area. So just a simple little project, but just to kind of take care of a mistake that I made in not sealing it up properly the first time. Then I'll rework a little bit of the scenery just right around it, but we'll see how that's going to turn out. Well, making a little bit of progress on my HO scale water feature. So I've got it all cleaned out. I've painted it. And now this is the second coat of full strength Elmer's Glue All that I've put in to cover everything and seal up that pink foam board. So when I do put in the Envirotex, I'm hoping I don't get bubbles or an adverse reaction and create my own sinkhole in my base for my layout. I will come back in and I'm going to give it a third coat of full strength glue. That'll be tomorrow. I'm letting them dry a day in between. And the next coat that I put on, I will put in the sand. I will put in the other materials to fill it in and make it look like a little bit of a ditch. And then let all of that dry and come back in with dilute white glue just to hold the material in place. And then on top of that, I will do the Envirotex. So the Envirotex, it's like Tuesday night. I'm probably not even going to do the Envirotex until Saturday with this little project. But when it's done, I should have a stable water feature that does not look like I've got a gas explosion going on underneath. And the water is about ready to burst forth like it did with the Woodland Scenic's product. It is what it is. You always got to rework a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm doing on the HO scale layout. You can see the N scale layout on the other side. You can see I'm still not progressing on the stockyard scene. That one, I've got the kit in the house and I'm starting to build it. That's a separate video. This one, just a short little addition to some video that I'm going to do here in the near future. There's the power cord, but you can just get an overview. This is my layout area. A little over half of a 2-stall garage. And if I were to push both tables up against the counter and put the N scale on the counter like I've got it designed to do, there would be more than enough room yet to get a vehicle in the garage. Once COVID kind of plays out in the future and we've got vaccines and I start traveling more, and that's exactly what I'll do. You know, everything's on wheels. It makes it easy to move it around in the space that I have. So that's it for this segment. Well, it is Thursday night, and I have this little ditch scene ready for some Envirotech on the HO scale layout. So it's cleaned It is prepped. I have it sealed multiple times with full strength white glue. I did go back in last night and add some green tinted water to kind of make it look like it's been sitting for a while, to give the Envirotech a little bit of a cast. I've still got some of the details from the old original water feature that I had in there that didn't work. So I'm ready to pour Hydrotech, and let's see how it's going to look. All right, I have the Envirotech poured on the HO scale, my lone water feature. Actually looks better. As long as it sets well and I don't have any other issues, I like how it looks. I'm going to have to do a little bit on the edges. You know, there's always that little bit of bleed where it soaks up and in. That I will fix once the epoxy has set. I will come back with dilute white glue, just run a streak along the side, blend in the ground cover. That'll be straightforward. I did have a little bit of extra left over, so I did put it to use over on the end scale layout. So let's pop over there and take a look at that. So while not a significant change, I did have enough left over from the HO scale that I added a little bit more into this water feature here. You know, I think it looks kind of good. I got sunken log, you know, rocks down on the bottom, kind of where it is seeping over the edge and running down. You know, a little pool. It gets blasted out when it rains and water comes barreling down the main channel, and then it gets water coming in off the side channel, kind of digs out a hollow, and then, you know, spring fed. Similar to my story on the one down there where I've got the canoers out having some fun. I also came in and had still a little more left over, so I poured a little bit again under the bridge. Not much, just enough to kind of make it look wet underneath a little bit and actually have some standing water. I'll come back in, add a few more tufts of grass in and around that feature and on this side, and I'll also blend in some of the wet spots again just to kind of make it look like it doesn't stand out too much, but just it sits under the bridge. Also took some feedback from some of the viewers that they usually see debris up against the uprights on these types of trestles, and they're right. So I went back in and added just a little bit in and around each to make it look like, you know, there's been grass or other stuff from floods that have come down and just kind of wrapped around it a little bit. So I think I am pretty much done with this scene. I'll finish off the water, and this one I'm going to call good. Well, I've done a little bit more work on the pond, the smaller one, and on this one I put in a couple of fishermen. So I've got Woodland Scenics N-scale fishermen, and I picked a couple that look like they would be, you know, do pretty good on a pond this size. So I've got a couple of guys down there now. I've got one gentleman up near the discharge of the little pond, and then another one fishing off of a little bit of a sandbar. Once this cures, I'm going to come back and I will detail the sandbar. I'll put a little bit more dry material around it just to make it look like it's not soaking wet, where the water is kind of going over the edge and slowly disappearing as it's going down to the small trestle. I'm going to leave that because that looks natural. That's just where the epoxy is seeped. So again, in my world, a little hollow, spring fed, so water is going to slowly kind of come out head down, and it's going to get absorbed and dry out before it hits the main run, you know, and then we have the other pond down at the other end with the canoers. So that's how this scene is going to look. And by tomorrow, the epoxy should be dry. Right now I'm standing here to make sure that the fisherman on the right does not fall over into the epoxy, because I just set him in place. But I'm happy with it. The scene looks pretty good, at least to my eye. And here we go. The epoxy has cured. I've got my geese back on the little water feature on the HO scale layout. And that turned out well. The epoxy has set. It's clear. There's no bubbles. I'm a happy camper. So I think I can claim success on this one. We'll see what happens over time to make sure nothing else happens to this. And a final shot over on the N-scale water features. Likewise, the epoxy has cured. My fishermen are enjoying a lovely fall day down in that little pond. I have come back and I've added just a little bit of really fine grained sand just to kind of hide some of the edges. Again, I like the wet look kind of coming off of that pond. Does look like I've got some water in it, and it's slowly seeping and heading downstream. Over here, I have added a little fine grained material just again to kind of get rid of some of the really wet edge look. I'm going to add a little bit more tufts of grass in a couple of spots, but you can see where it looks wet under the bridge and damp with debris. So I'm calling this one good as well. I like both of these, so I think I'm pretty well done with this stream bed at this point. My water features are in. I'm happy with how they look. So I'm going to call this one done. I will have my vehicles where you see them. Got the old Woody for the canoers, pickup truck for the guys down fishing. When I get this scene completed over here, I will make sure that I have some way for vehicles to get in there. That reminds me how it was when I was growing up. Down by a river in my hometown, there'd be all kinds of little pull-offs, little dirt areas for people to drive to go to their favorite fishing spots. So I'm going to make sure I model that as well. But that's it for this one. I'm going to run some trains.